Welcome to HR on the Rocks, a podcast for professionals that takes you behind the closed door.
All right. Well, welcome to another HR on the Rocks podcast. Justin, Melanie, thanks for joining me. I'm Jake. I've got 400 conejos, which is a mezcal añejo. I think it's appropriate with the smoke.
I thought you were about to say 400 proof, and I was like, well, this is going to be short-lived.
Yeah, this will be a short podcast, right? No, it's all the smokiness outside. I was like, you know what? I've got a mezcal. Let's see how that does tonight. So that's what I'm drinking. Justin, what about you? Looks like you
I've got
switched it up tonight.
Iden Still, well, Irish whiskey, but an Iden Stills. It's sold at a store here locally that always gets, and it's like cheap, and it doesn't suck. It's really good. So, but
Nice.
It's still Irish whiskey because that's what I do.
Right on. Melanie, how about you?
I'm going with some Tito's handmade vodka in a little measurable way because this is how I know how much I can have to drink and still be somewhat coherent.
There you go.
Mixed with a Waterloo raspberry nectarine for health reasons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, cheers. And thanks to my sister-in-law who got me this sweet HR on the Rocks glass as a gift. So very cool. Appreciate it. And again, cheers.
Cheers. This is Target.
So there you go. So today we're going to talk about a fun topic that I think should be near and dear to every leader's heart, and every employee, frankly. So essentially, employee retention is one of those things that is really, it's important for every organization. And what it means, what it signals to me at its core is that you either have a fantastic culture and folks stay, or you don't and they leave. And so as a primer for that, for the listeners that are they lead in their company, they're a leader at their organization. If you were to give every employee at your company right now a button, big red button that they could press, and it guarantees them a 10% raise right now at one of your competitors, how many people come Friday would still be sitting in their seats and working for your company versus a 10% raise at a competitor? Who wants
Giving
to
that to
tackle
Melanie right there. Melanie, you go.
That is thought-provoking. And I would say to that, I'm going to be confident. I'm going to say 85% stay, 15 go.
Okay.
I'd
like
go
it.
lower.
You can go lower? Okay. On paper, I think people would say, because what do you see on surveys? I want more money, I want more pay, other things. So I don't really think that's the true problem. Part of the problem.
I think I think you're right. I think it's there's more to unpack there. And so I think that's what we need to unpack on this call, on this podcast episode today. So from my perspective, and the way I'll approach this is like, as a leader, as someone who has seen it happen and over time, has noticed some patterns. One of the things that is very noticeable with folks is when they go from friction to silence, meaning, so like they're in a meeting and they're speaking up because they're like, hey, that doesn't sit right with me, or hey, this doesn't sound right, or hey, can you explain it to me because I don't quite understand. So they're giving feedback, they're debating decisions. So it's not maybe total alignment, but there's alignment there, right? But now all of a sudden they go quiet and there's silence. To me, like, that's one of the biggest signs that as a leader, your employees are getting ready to leave, or they're checking out, right? They're disengaging from your organization. They're getting ready to hit that big red button because now they've got an option to go somewhere else for 10% more, and it's probably better, or at least they hope it's better, right? So anyway, that's kind of my first point. I've got a couple more, but Justin, let's pass it to you. You've not really talked about anything yet so far on this podcast. So what you got for us?
Then you should see my silence, and you know what? I'm just joking.
He's disengaged. We didn't.
He's disengaging from the
disengaging.
podcast,
and
he's He's just not interested in this topic.
I got another 10% offer for another podcast.
And you're
So,
going.
and
Justin's
I'm
leaving.
going.
He's
And
out.
I'm out. I mean, it's an interesting debate because on the recruiting side, I've been slapped on the hands before by you, Jake, as well, because of the way I recruit sometimes. Because let's be honest, 70% of the time people leave is truly a financial decision. It just and I do it differently. And well, when someone says, it's not about the money, okay, well then how's $12 an hour sound? And they're just like, what are you talking about? I make
They
150.
backpedal very quickly.
Well then, what are we doing here? So, yes, it's always money always comes into the equation every single time, and it has to.
Sure.
That's their livelihood, but it's benefits, it's all this, and when at the end of the day, it is, well, then why do your good employees leave? Why are your most valued employees leaving? To your point, they're not being heard. They're not part of the conversation. They're not part of this problem solving. It could be that they love their boss and the boss goes and the boss takes them. Or it could,
that happens a lot. Yeah.
It does. And it is, hence the fact we're all three on this call.
Yeah.
All three on this podcast.
And that's why that's why non-solicits exist, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. So, some of it's benefit changes. I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, how many companies over time, and that's one thing I think that we've always tried to educate companies that we've worked for and the ones we work with now is, do we really need to change benefits every year? Are we really doing it for the employee, or are we doing it for our bottom line to save ourselves money? And what's more important? I hear so many different factors that come in with benefits of why people leave and why people stay, because that is more and more a factor each year. Because it's in my own household, I feel like benefits change almost yearly. I mean, it's just the truth.
Sure.
And it gets frustrating.
We can do a whole podcast just on that, and we should at some point soon, right?
But I mean, there's a lot of good reasons, and there's some of them you're always going to have. Oh yeah, well, somebody offered me 30% more. Well, yeah, I'd leave for 30% more. I mean, no offense. I mean, what are we talking about?
Don't give him the red button.
Justin doesn't get the red button this time.
I mean, let's be honest. But it's just, I think a lot of it is your environment. I think a lot of it is benefits now. But I think it's that, especially with everybody going back into the workplace, kind of like we talked about last episode, it's going in there and now being around the people that you're working with on this or through email all the time, but now you're there with them every day. That may or may not, and that's what I've been finding on my side. It's like, yeah, but it hasn't been as much about money, but it's been about the other little minutia tidbits that are here or here or here, or their boss just completely up and left them.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think the boss aspect of it is something I'll talk about here in a little bit. But Melanie, let's transition over to you. What's your initial reaction to this, minus Justin not getting any big red buttons?
So, a lot of thoughts about it initially, and it was kind of as Justin was talking, the employer-employee it's a relationship. The company and the employee is a relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind of what he was saying, even benefits. It's similar to just any other relationship that's out there. When you're treated poorly, the relationship probably won't work. If you're
And
treated
I forgot to
well,
bring that up. You can leave with a bad boss, right?
right?
It's not just
Sure.
you're not leaving because of a good boss,
Oh yeah,
right? I didn't, that just complete, you're leaving because your boss
yeah,
sucks.
yeah. And I think often, especially maybe not even a longer term relationship in a company or in real life, but it's not usually like a big thing. Sometimes it is, but it's like those small frustrations that you have, the annoyances that build up over time if you're there long enough for that to happen. And
Like a work-life balance.
work-life balance, it plays a role. And so maybe, you're having to go into the office all of a sudden 4 days a week rather than just one or whatever. So you got the gas money, the frustrations of being on the road. And that's coupled with you get to the office and, the coffee machine's broken. Or you've gotten a coworker that might be a little on the annoying side. Or, a manager breathing down your neck. And it's not necessarily one specific thing, it's an accumulation of many. And I think it's easy to say, hey, these people over here, this company ABC, they're going to pay me more. I'm going over there. That's a I'm not going to like light this bridge on fire when I leave kind of reason. It's just like I want to get paid more and it's acceptable, right? Or I want to grow in my career, and not that growth in the career or the money aren't legitimate reasons that people do. But I think if we're being honest, I think there's more to it than that. If you're happy in a relationship, you stay. Usually.
Sure.
Yep.
You accept somebody cleaning a breast pump in the kitchen common area, and you just accept it because you like the people you work with, and you like your bosses, and you just let it go.
Jeez.
It's like those little
That is
idiosyncrasies.
that is a fun story that Justin and I did not even like. I wouldn't have even thought about that one until you just brought that up. But yeah, there was a
You
there was
don't
a whole
complain about it. You just let it go.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so to your point, Melanie, by the numbers. So I did a little bit of research before this episode, and frontline managers are account for about 70% of the variance in overall employee engagement. Meaning, a bad manager is essentially the leading reason why someone leaves. So, like, you have the positive side of that is you've got a good leader and you want to stay with them, and they offer you a job at another company, and so you bounce, right? But on the flip side, and probably more striking, is the fact that like that's happening less than the fact that you have a frontline manager that is terrible and isn't a good leader, and you leave because of that. I mean, that's a significant number that when you really peel that back and realize, like, okay, what is the cost of, so now let's talk about like the cost of new hire. So you have to replace that individual, and so what's the cost of hiring that person? The recruiting cost associated with it, and I've got a whole different set of numbers there, and we'll talk about in a little bit. But to your point, Melanie, like that little nugget is so important to get right for companies, right? You have to make sure that your frontline leaders are saying, doing, behaving the right way, because if they're not, that's how you get whole departments that'll leave, or most of that department. They're hitting that big red button, right?
Yeah. And that's tricky because how does a company truly, you want to make sure good employees don't leave. You want to make sure good managers don't leave. How do you identify a good manager? How are you measuring that success? Do they have, I mean, one pretty easy parameter there to measure is if their team has really bad turnover. Hey, maybe there's a problem here. Um, but what are you doing to train and mentor managers? And because that's vital. People don't leave. I mean, I've heard it before, and I believe it. Kind of your point, Jake. Like people don't leave companies; they leave managers. And the reason they leave managers depends on the person. Maybe you're a micromanager. Maybe you don't make your employees, maybe the employees don't feel valued or that they can trust you or that their contributions to the company are rewarded. And, I think that that's something that you have to be plugged in kind of in a different way to make sure that you retain you have good managers and you retain them.
Well, and we had a great manager who always had a great team and company that we were consulting with, but he was always rotating people in and out. And what did he do? We did not know that he was asking his team to go on like a prayer breakfast like every Thursday morning at like 6:30 and meet before it. Guess what? You're going to have high turnover if you do that. It's just the way you well, I don't understand why people are leaving. And, when we went in to consult and talk to them, well, what are you doing? What's going on? Here's this. What do you get? You're doing that? Well, yeah, that's good for a lot of people, a majority of, but
Sure. A
you're
portion,
not,
but that's not everybody.
that's not everybody, number one. Number two, it may not be just their cup of tea to speak about that outside of work. And guess what? That's okay. And you're alienating, and you have to think, and in certain of the employees that have left that, I had spoken with, why are you doing it? Well, I like to do it, but that's my space on my time, wherever. I don't want to bring up anything or discuss, because then all of a sudden, if you're not talking about it with your fellow coworkers, and then you feel like you're an outsider, well, now this was a group effort in a team, and now you're over here.
Yep. I know, and I feel left out because Melanie's cat has joined us and we don't even know his name.
His name is Lynx because he is a wild cat.
Nice.
Yep.
I dig it.
Yep.
Links.
He's being quarantined at the moment.
There you go. Yep.
So he feels like an
I get-
outsider?
He
In
feels that.
so
Yeah.
many ways, yes. Different episode.
Well, and so then those employees leave, and so now let's talk about like the raw cost of that employee leaving. And this is where, again, like a good recruiter and a good company culture will save you money, because just by the numbers, replacing a single employee, just any employee, right? And it's for employees that have a higher cost associated with them, the number gets much bigger. But essentially, like half of an employee's annual salary at a minimum is accounts for that replacement cost, right? So let's say someone makes $100,000 a year. It could be, best case scenario, $50,000 between recruitment costs. So either your recruiting department or someone else handling that, right? The loss of productivity in that job, that whatever it is, the function that they were providing to the organization, and then onboarding time, right? So you're talking about what, 3 to 6 weeks before someone is spun up, understands what's going on, and then is actually effective in that new role, minus all the time that they weren't there before, between that person leaving the organization and that person being 3 to 6 weeks in. And so at a best case scenario, that's half their salary. So in this case, right, $50,000. Now, worst case scenario, it's 2 times that cost. And now we're
Sure.
talking $200,000. Like, that's not an insignificant number. That's a significant cost to an organization. And that's where, again, the value of having a good culture where employees, if that leader leaves, they want to follow that leader because they like the culture that was a part of, or that they were a part of at, when they were working within that team or as a part of that team. And so again, it just highlights the fact that you have to have good frontline leaders in place. And if and when you don't, that's when things go really sideways for your business really fast.
Yeah. And I would add to that good leaders, but I think that it's, especially if a company sees a lot of employees leaving, maybe you need to build or look into a retention strategy. How are you going to keep your employees? How are you going to make sure that your staff is happy and they don't want to quit? Is
If
there,
we want to sit here for 3 hours, we can discuss retention strategy for 3 hours.
we could,
Melanie.
but I have got it
mean,
down to 3 seconds.
Let's go there.
You got it down
No,
to 30 seconds? I want to hear it, bro.
Let's go.
You got it?
Yeah, let's go there, and let's Melanie, you start, and then Justin, I want to hear from you next, and then I'll wrap that one up
Okay.
because I think that's a good point. But go ahead.
10%, 10%.
It is.
No, I'm just
Okay,
joking.
so let me know when the timer
Let's
starts.
hit the button again.
I'm going to time myself out of my competitive nature. So I'm going to start with competitive pay. Are you offering fair wages to your employees?
Ready, go.
Second. I have more than that, but whatever. That's fine.
No, go. Go.
Career
I wanna hear it.
growth. Are you offering your employees, or is there at least an avenue for them to grow? Because I think nobody wants a job where they're just stagnant and they don't have any avenues to grow. Well, maybe some people do. That's not fair to make it like that. But most people want the opportunity to grow in their role or grow as a professional. Workplace culture is also something that plays a role. Do people want to show up to work, or does it feel toxic? And like a jail cell. And well, good management. Are you like training your managers and mentoring them and making sure that you keep them so you can keep the good employees and they don't have a mass exodus? Okay, your turn.
Justin, go. Melanie, that was definitely right at 30 seconds. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Really, 30 seconds on employee retention? Money, bro,
Yeah,
money.
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 Yeah. Melanie just solved all your problems.
I like to be efficient with my answers.
That's a first. But thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Oh, that's funny
Efficient
coming from Justin. That's funny coming from Justin, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No. But no, a lot of hey, if you want to keep your good employees, you've got to actually, you know what? Melanie answered it all right. What do you want? I feel like Adam Sandler in whatever movie, and it was the Cajun Democrat
Happy Gilmore.
guy, and he was Happy Gilmore, and he's like, I've got nothing to dispute there. That was a great answer. It wasn't Happy Gilmore. It was
Sounds like Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Billy
Yes.
Madison.
Yep.
And James Carville. And he was like,
Yep.
we've got I've got nothing to dispute here. That was a great. Or no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't that. That was it was with Will Ferrell.
James
and
Carville.
Will
So the
Ferrell,
Raging Cajun.
No, yeah, but it was with Will Ferrell, and it was when they did all the new fraternity house, and
I'm gonna like. Yeah, that's absolutely old school.
Old school. And when they asked Will Ferrell the trivia question,
You sent me down the Adam Sandler route. That's not. Yeah, that's.
But when
Ferrell.
when he rattled off that whole answer, and then
Yes.
James Carville was
Then
like,
he snaps out of it, right?
and and he's like, well, we got nothing, and I'm looking at it going, well, she just hit this. Yeah, I'm out. Okay.
So I think you're exactly right, and I think Melanie nailed it. But let me add some numbers behind that because again, like part of the prep for this one is I did a little research, and so by the numbers, employees who made internal career moves are 75% more likely to stay at an organization after the 2-year mark, compared to 56% who stay that are in static roles. So we're talking about roughly a 19%, 20% difference between at the 2-year mark for employees that have basically stayed where they're at versus employees that realize some form of career growth. That's a significant number, right? That's not small. And so, Melanie, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It comes to mobility within the company, and then to answer the question as a whole, about 75% of employee turnover is fully preventable through proactive leadership. And so what does proactive leadership really mean? I think for me, when I think about proactive leaders and or HR departments, right? So this could be your HR department stepping in separately as like a third party, which is sometimes good, sometimes really bad, because like you're signaling that the HR department is doing this as opposed to your leaders. But leaders, I think, so I think leaders should be doing it, but I think HR could also do it. do it, and it's the difference between an exit interview and a stay interview. So exit interviews in my mind
Oh,
are, okay,
I hadn't
Justin,
thought about that. That's a good one. That's a good one, Jake. A stay interview. Okay.
so the idea being like, as opposed to Justin, you just put in your 2 week notice because you hit the big red button and you're getting your 10% raise elsewhere, right? And now you're telling me like you're either really sharing because you're an honest person, or you're just kind of not, and you're just saying, yeah, everything was great. I'm just ready to leave. It was time for me to move on. Blah blah blah. Right? Versus a stay interview where you care enough about someone to sit down with them while they're still an employee, and you say, hey, I know that it's not all roses and rainbows working at company XYZ. That said, I am interested in hearing what it is that keeps you engaged versus what frustrates you. And so in my mind, a stay interview is really a powerful tool to keep that person on the hook, if you will. And when I say on the hook, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean like that person is staying engaged because they actually can tell that you care, because you gave a dang enough to actually ask the question. Like, what frustrates you? What do you really like about what you're doing here? And I think that's something that is a tool that even I did it with check-ins, with like one-on-ones with the folks that worked with and for, or that worked with me at organizations that I was a part of when I was still part of corporate America. But at the same token, like I think being very pointed about that and saying, okay, this is different from our one-on-one. This is different from our regular conversation. Your regularly programmed, your regularly scheduled program. At this point, I'm sitting down because I want to know and I want to hear from you on, where's your pulse at? How are you? Are you happy? Are you not happy? If you're not happy, like, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that.
What
And I
can I
think
do
that
for you? Good impact plug, by the way. How can I impact that? Good job.
Yeah, exactly. Like it comes down to impact. And I think that too many leaders don't do even anything that resembles that, because they're like, all they care about is, did you check the boxes? Did you get through the tasks that I'm assigning you? If you did, cool. You're going to get your 3% raise. If you didn't, well, maybe you get 1% or less, or something in between 1 and 3, right? And so again, the way to foster trust, to create engagement, is with what I feel is more of like a pulse check-in or a stay interview than it is, a regular one-on-one check-in kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you make some good points. And I would say to that, if you're a leader that's doing that stay interview or the pulse interview, um, it's important that your employee feels that they can speak up. And because I know myself, I've had these come through, filter through, and I haven't always like, I'm like, whatever, good, submit, right? Because I don't feel that I'm
Check.
in a
Yeah.
place.
Boxes are checked.
I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can actually share that information. And that, is it really anonymous? If it is in a survey form, um, is it really anonymous? If I say something on the
Right.
like in the questionnaire, or if it's a one-on-one, like what if I share something and it's a sincere concern and it like comes back to bite me?
I didn't trust Jake at all when he made us fill out those forms.
I did
Did
He
you?
didn't.
good. No, I don't know.
Good.
No, yeah.
I
Good,
probably
No,
did. I was like,
you're-
I know he can see this is me.
Yeah, it's good.
and I knew that, like, inherently, like, everyone. It's interesting because it feels like a big game, right? It feels like everybody knows the stakes here. The stakes are, is everybody happy? Raise your hand if you're not happy. And like, you might hear from one or two. There's always one or two, right? That they're like,
Always,
yeah, I'm
there's
Yeah.
always one or two.
like, I'm miserable. And oh, by the way, like, you're about to hear about it. So,
There's
and they just get
10% that are
type,
always miserable. If you're
right?
asking 10 people, there's always one person who's miserable. There's always one person who's like, eh. There's always one person. And then there's like a group of 5 that are all, oh, this is awesome. The greatest, but yet they're the most disgruntled employees ever, right?
Sure.
The person who thinks this is the worst place ever is usually the happiest employee. It's a reverse psychology.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. That's an interesting point. But I do I think that there's a lot of value. So speaking from the perspective of an employer, right? There's a lot of value in hearing from that disgruntled employee that or that happy employee that has issues that they're very vocal about, because it's like, okay, at least that person cared enough about this company to sit down and actually give me feedback, right? Because I'm not really getting that from most people, right? The 5 to 7 group in the middle, they're really probably ready to press the big red button and go take that 10% raise. Like, those folks are, they're not giving you the feedback, and here's why: they don't trust you, which means your company culture is not good, right? It sucks.
Exactly.
And I think that that's really the key to all of it. If I were to summarize this entire episode from my perspective, it really comes down to, like, what is your company culture? And it's funny because I listened to a book recently, and like, your culture is going to take on a life of its own. Like, you can't dictate what your company culture is as a business. So, like, let's say I'm the CEO of a 10,000 person company. I don't get to define what my company culture is. It is what it is, right? But on the same token, it's either good or bad based on the actions of the individual leaders that we just talked about from a percentage standpoint, that are at the front line, that are either making it a good experience for their employees, or they don't, and they really suck as a leader.
Yeah,
They're not they don't show or demonstrate that they care.
exactly. You're 100% right. Don't give me that work hard, play hard, right? What we do here is work hard and play hard. You know what? Eat me.
How many
I don't
times have
want to
we
hear
heard
about.
that?
I don't want to hear about work hard and play hard. I don't. Nobody does. Nobody. Because most people don't.
Mm-hmm. I just want to play hard.
Uh,
That's why Melanie only has the measurable shot of Tito's, right?
That's right. All at the top of my glass.
Which, by the way, no one even said anything about my. So last episode, you guys showed up in your Hawaiian. This time, I'm like, hey, I didn't get the memo,
yeah,
so I'll
no,
show up in my Hawaiian.
we chose to wear dark colors today.
yeah.
You guys are
Mhm.
professional. You look, yeah.
I mentally made a
College
note and
students.
didn't verbalize it.
To wear dark
okay.
and
Yeah,
screw Jake
Yeah.
with the Hawaiian.
that's true.
Okay.
No, it's cool. I'm just
Um,
trying to fit in, guys.
We need
No.
you to survey us so we can tell you how we feel. However, I would make the argument in talking about management and making sure you have good leaders. I think that small, consistent acts of appreciation that come from a manager to the employees that they are over, I think that's so vital. Because you show up to a job and you want to feel like you are contributing, that you're valued, and that you're appreciated. And there's a psychological side to that. It's important. And I think that's sometimes overlooked because we're checking boxes or whatever we're doing. But if you want, your people to stay, make sure that you don't wait until they're leaving, that you ask how they're doing or why they're leaving. Don't make that, like, sure, an exit interview is important. It can be important if they're honest. I think that's a separate issue, but like, don't wait until they're going and to ask, because then it's like it's too late.
Valid. Very
Yeah.
valid, Tony.
Yeah, you didn't care or bother to ask me while I was an employee, or while you knew I was still a long-term employee, or thought I was at least.
While I gave a shit.
Sure.
Right. You didn't bother to ask.
Let's
Now
be
all of a
honest.
sudden, now all of a sudden you care.
Yeah.
Come on,
Well, you say you
give me
care.
a break.
You say you care, and I think a part of this culture issue is, and with, say, surveys and pulse surveys, are you being disingenuous? Are you being genuine? Are you authentic as an employer when you're asking these things? Or are you checking a box? Do you really care about the employee? Do they feel cared about? Is it genuine? And I think sometimes in our society there's a lack of that. I think it can tend to be inauthentic and disingenuous, and well, I won't go off on that rail, but it's important to to feel like you matter and that there is a true care, and then it's not just like, hey, we read a survey that says this is what we should do because all our employees are leaving, and now we're going to do it, and hey, we did this, but they're still leaving. Well, okay, there's bigger issues at hand.
I really want Melanie to run the next podcast and just let her run off the rails and go, here it is. Let me tell you what's wrong with HR.
I'm going to need 2 Tito's for that.
Double Tito's. Well, so what we'll do is we'll start drinking in the pre-work that we do, and then I think you have the second one while we're on the episode. Now you're ready.
We may need a retake on that, but I will try.
Well, no, it's gonna be we're gonna start. It's gonna have an NC-17 label.
I don't know that I'm going to be
There you go.
Oh, yeah, we have no idea what you're gonna do.
But to your point, and again to bring it back to center from my perspective, like, do you care or do you not? That's really like, to be or not to be, right? That's the question. That is really the heart of it. Because if you care, your employees are going to feel like it. If you don't care, they're going to know. If you're not asking questions, like, I can't even tell you how many managers, leaders, etc. that I've had throughout my career, military and otherwise, that like all we ever really talked about was work. All we ever really talked about or interacted around was the things that we were trying to do when it came to the job. They didn't give a hoot about anything else I had to say, think, etc. Right? And you can feel that, like, as an employee, you know that. And so the more that happens over time, the easier it makes for you to press that big red button or someone to offer that to you and say, hey, I'm going to go, like, at a minimum, I'm going to go make more money somewhere else. Yeah, their culture may be the same. I don't know. But at this point, like, whatever. It's not as bad. It can't be as bad as it is here, right? And so I think, again, I think it comes down to, like, show me how much you care as an employee. And at that point, maybe there is a future for you. And, caring, coming full circle, and Melanie, you mentioned this earlier, right? Like, it comes down to, okay, is there a glide path for me to continue to grow over time, right? Can I continue as an employee to progress, learn more? So, I'm in this product manager role now. Is there a product manager 2 that I can grow to, that I can learn about and set my sights on, and within the next 2 years I can grow into? And then is there a product director or a product, whatever the case is, right? Whatever the progression looks like, is there a way for me to continue to grow and feel like I am cared for, as opposed to like, hey bro, you can sit in this role for the rest of your life, and you can, I'm going to treat you like a mushroom. And we all know how mushrooms are treated, so I don't even need to go there. But essentially, like, some people, no, there are some people that's what they want. They want to be treated like a mushroom. They're not interested. They don't want to engage. They just want to do their job, punch in, punch out, and go home. But that's not most people. Like, truly, most people care, and most people want to feel cared for. And I think that's the difference maker in the culture. That's where you keep employees as opposed to losing them, from my perspective.
Yeah.
You win, Jake. You win.
You win.
There was no competition.
No, I mean, I was actually going to give you the fun because you said to be or not to be. Is the question, right?
Old Shakespeare, right?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's to be noble in the mind,
there it is,
suffer to sling and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing them. But I mean, we can guess what? British lit minor kinda.
Mm.
So, but I mean, that speaks to what
And
we're
away
talking
he
about, right?
goes.
But what are we gonna do? I mean, it's either we're gonna sit here and take it,
You're gonna
or
move
we're
on.
gonna leave for more
Yeah.
money, for outrageous fortune.
Hmm. You got me thinking about a whole
Yeah,
other
Melanie,
set.
I'm destroying
Yeah.
Melanie. I'm destroying Shakespeare for
No,
you, but that's
it's
okay.
I
good.
was gonna
Yeah.
say, so yeah, now we're getting Shakespearean on him, and
How
and that's good. I mean,
how would Shakespeare write about this? Which one of his pieces of work
Ooh.
best depicts? I have no answer for this. I'm completely unprepared. I was not a British lit. I was just regular old lit, and I forgot most of that.
I would either go Othello or Hamlet,
Ooh.
and
Hamlet,
you
yeah,
could do a
Hamlet is where
whole
I was headed.
HR. You could do a whole HR when he's talking.
Mm.
Yes, yeah, skull and
And
everything, right?
skull and everything. You could do a whole HR episode on that alone.
Okay.
Right.
I like it. I would like to put in a request for a big red button. Where do I get those? I need to press it. If I press it 10 times, do I get twice myself? Yeah.
Sure.
There it is.
Cool.
There it is. Well, on that note, maybe we should wrap it up because Melanie's now ready to press the big red button too.
10 times.
So, yeah, 10 times, not just once. So thanks for listening. I think, guys, I think this was a great episode because I think, again, the message is clear. You should care, and if you don't care, you probably have it wrong, right? So leaders, take heed. Employees, take heed, right? I think employees, you need to care enough to give the feedback. And if it falls on deaf ears, maybe it's time for the big red button.
Or cut off your ear. Either one.
Cheers to Shakespeare.
Oh, that's
Well, cutting off the ear is an artist, but we'll get into that one.
Van Gogh, yeah,
Yeah.
there it is.
Cheers,
All right,
everybody.
guys. Well done
See you
on
on
another
next
podcast. See ya.